Welcome to Robotics, welcome to Naples. I'm Bruno Siciliano and I'm Professor of Robotics in the Department of Electrical Engineering and Information Technology of the University of Naples, Federica II. So this is a two-part course which is called Robotics Foundation. The first part will be dealing with robotics modeling. The second part will be dealing about robotics control. Actually, you can probe further into the contents of this course by the supplementary reading, and this is our textbook that I co-authored with my mentor in robotics, Professor Sciavicco, and two younger colleagues, Professor Villani from my same department, Professor Oriolo from University of Roma La Sapienza. Robots can be found everywhere. You can find robots not only in factories, but also outside the factory. I'm speaking about, for instance, robots in the air, robots under sea, robots out in the space. But one day, we want to have robots in our social environment. I'm speaking about homes, schools, hospitals, and so forth. And a milestone in the field was the famous article by Bill Gates, published in the Scientific American December 2006 issue, in which he predicted that this is the dawn of the age of robots. And in 20 years from now, there will be a robot in every home. But what is a robot? First of all, the etymology of the term. Robot comes from the Slav language, that robota, which means subordinate work, executive work. And it was coined by Karel Čapek in his famous novel, Rossum's Universe of Robots, in which he was designing some kind of droids to really help him handcrafting all the parts that he was making. And since then, robot has been used in the modern acception as a sort of a programmable machine which is meant to replace or to improve the work of humans. But actually, if we ask the man on the street, what is a robot? Typically, it's the science fiction which has conditioned the concept of a robot. Typically, a robot is conceived by normal people as a sort of android that walks, moves, hears, sees, and so forth. And there is a very nice segment extracted by the famous Wall-E movie that I really recommend you to watch, in which there is this sweeper robot which even has some feelings, some sentiments against the screen, and is even moved by the scene. And also you will find another video which is the modern acception of a robot as a sort of advanced industrial robot that is taken from the SME Robot European project. I've been teaching robotics since 25 years from now, and I always show my first class a precursor because, again, the cinematography and the science fiction has been inspiring also the development of technology. I'm speaking about the famous movie Modern Times by Charlie Chaplin in the 30s. And here you see the poor Charlot that during the lunch break is to be fed by an automatic machine, and it's really frustrated. So the challenge that we've been tackling, since the latest years of research and development in the field, is it always the human to comply with the machine? And do we really want a fully autonomous machine? And if we want to go through this 50, 60 years of development of robotics from the 60s, there is also a very nice movie which was produced by my distinguished colleague, Professor Usama Khatib at Stanford University. He's also a good friend of mine, and this is the iconic video which is known like Robots, a 50-year Journey. We really see the development of robotics from the 1950 up to the year 2000 when this movie was produced for the flagship conference of our field. I'm speaking about the IEEE International Conference on Robotic Automation that in the Millennium Edition, it took place in San Francisco. So if we want really to play the game of the evolution of robotics, we can do so by adopting a sort of dichotomy. The dichotomy is between dream and need. The humans dream to build some sort of machines, androids, with the same capabilities of humans has always inspired the development of the field, with the limit of the current technology of many centuries ago. So after the development of the first artificial hand by Ambrose, there were also robots which were used for entertainment. And all the way on, this dream has taken our Japanese colleagues to develop a number of humanoid, human-inspired or animal, biomorphically inspired robots, like they were presented in the World Expo of 2005 in Aichi, that you will also see in this kind of ideal evolution. But the man has always felt the need to develop some useful machine. So this was the development of industrial robots from 1960 to 1980 with the manufacturing application, then ideally the robots really walked outside of the factories of the manufacturing environment, and they were used outside in the field, like for instance on space, like the Sojourner mission in 1997. And the next challenge is to use robots not only for hostile environments like in field, but also in our social environment. I'm speaking about service robotics. And when we deal with service robotics, the range is quite wide, from the vacuum cleaner that you can buy on internet, also to the more sophisticated system like robot-assisted surgery for medical application. And the dream one day will be to realize a personal robot, and this should become the same kind of ubiquitous technology that also we can find in that, like a PC in every home, that we take it for granted that everybody has a PC, everybody's using an electronic handheld device like a smartphone, like a tablet, like a phablet, and so forth. So what is the connotation of this ideal path of robots from factories to our homes? And it's the increasing level of autonomy. So the more we challenge a robot to operate in an environment, the more we need a level of autonomy. So if we deal with the classic application for industry like automotive, chemical, electronics, and food, and we move on to the field application like, as I said, aerial, space, underwater, search and rescue. For instance, some robots were deployed on the debris of the criminal attack to Ground Zero, September 11, 2001, seeking for human survivors or for human rest. And then we move on to service robots, domestic application. This is the new field of edutainment. So using robots, a toy to educate, to the more professional examples of rehabilitation and medical. So again, from factory to our home, we need an increased autonomy, and then the system is becoming more and more complex, and you will learn about the complexity and how we can design more intelligent robots in this two-part course.